Hello and welcome to Muppetsational, the UK's biggest Muppet Show podcast, hosted by three huge Muppet fans. Join us each week as we dive into an episode of Jim Henson's classic variety show, now finally available on Disney+. This week, it's Season 2, Episode 19, starring the witty, urbane Englishman, Peter Sellers. It's time to get things started on the chronological, explorational, conversational Muppetsational! Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Muppetsational. I'm Lewis Chandler.
I'm Jade Turner.
And I'm Emma Chandler.
And we are here this week, as we are every week, to discuss another episode of The Muppet Show. How are we both doing?
Fine, although I can't believe I've watched this episode of television twice.
I know, me neither.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is going to be... yeah.
Just a discussion.
Yeah, the more and more this episode went on, the more I was like, oh, I am not looking forward to recording this tomorrow.
Not to show my hand too early, but I realised on the second watch that it genuinely made me extremely anxious watching this. And my heart rate was literally up. And I did feel like Kermit. Like, I was like, I am as frazzled as Kermit. I need to sit in a corner and sing Being Green. Like, this is not a fun episode of television to engage with in 2022.
Yeah, well, maybe we can just increase our level of going off on tangents this week rather than having to dig into this, well, let's call a spade, racism. Emma, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. You know, I had like a ginger shot this morning, so I'm very peppy right now.
Ooh,
where'd you get a ginger shot from?
Oh, I just bought it because I just was like, why not?
Yeah, okay. Right. What, they just selling those in our village
now?
No,
in Waitrose.
Oh.
Okay, fair.
I wondered if you'd been down the organic farm.
Oh, no.
We've never been into that organic
You've never
farm.
been? Oh, it's great.
They have like a little pumpkin patch there, which I've seen pictures of from...
Little. It's enormous these days. And they charge to go in, which they never used to when we were smaller.
Look, pumpkins cost money.
I think this year they made a Paddington Bear out of the pumpkins. Which, yeah, it's quite cute. My parents invited me, and I was like, I'm not coming home just to come to a pumpkin patch.
Yeah,
like, love you, but no.
Yeah, absolutely not. Oh, God.
How are you, Lewis?
Do you know what? I'm not too bad, actually. I've had a bit of a... Well, as you know, I was having a bit of a to-do once I was trying to, set up for this morning. I seem to have misplaced both my laptop charger and... the little lightning connector cable that lets me actually plug my microphone in. So that's a bit frantic. And Peter and I need to get a lot of life admin done today. So I was doing, I don't know if you guys are the same, but sort of was making a deal with Peter being like, if I load the washing machine and do the vacuuming, can you unload the washing machine and do the dusting while I do a podcast? And then we'll go to the gym. So it's sort of just trying to put all these little pieces in place while also not wanting to do all the bits that I really don't like. I hate unloading the washing machine. There is something that I find so grim about having to take clothes out of the washing machine and onto our little clothes horse that I'm just like, this is not my life. I just find it really annoying. Whereas vacuuming, plug a podcast in and I'm just bopping around being like Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm fine.
You got a cheeky gin on the go as well.
Do you know what? I've had to go off the gin. I had it at a friend's. We were at a friend's for dinner last week, and I just had one gin and tonic. And I don't know what it was. Something in the gin really set me off, and I was sneezing over and over again.
Oh,
and so now I'm thinking I might have to step back from gin slightly.
It wasn't the tonic, was it?
Oh, it could be the tonic. I'll do a test.
Yeah, do a test.
Get some gin now and see what happens. Let me just do a shot of gin at 10:30 in the morning on a Sunday.
Keep a diary.
Full on Princess Margaret
12,
vibes.
I feel okay. 12:35, I don't feel okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Achoo.
I mean, I don't know how relevant any the Crown conversation will be by the time this episode comes out in about 3 weeks. But whew, what a bad season of television that was. It's not good. They were always unsubtle with their metaphors, but this year they're really like, you're a boat. Like, I mean, the boat is tired, but it needs love and attention and care, but it stands for something. The Queen is a boat. Windsor Castle is burning down, and so are all of your children's relationships. The monarchy is unstable, because Windsor Castle is also on fire. It's just so, like, slapping you round the face. It's like very GCSE drama. Like, this means this, and this means that. Oh, Leslie Manville's great, though. Have either of you even cracked into it yet?
I don't watch The Crown.
No, I've not seen it yet. There's been so many adverts for it, though.
All right, as much as we keep trying to step our way around talking about the actual main meat of the episode, Jade, why don't you kick us off with some production information?
I shall indeed. So this episode was originally broadcast on the 1st of January 1978. So this is our New Year's Day episode to follow up.
Happy New Year.
Wow.
Yeah, to follow up from Julie Andrews' Christmas Day episode, which, I mean, that is coming into 1978 with like an absolute clonk, isn't it? That's like
a real clonk, yeah.
I cannot imagine watching this hungover on New Year's Day. I can't think of anything worse.
You'll probably think you're in like a fever dream or something.
Anyway,
it helps. I watched this slightly drunk, so that
is definitely a slightly better way to go about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, just to finish up the production information, it was written by Jerry Jewell, Joseph A. Bailey, Jim Henson, and Don Hinckley, and directed by Peter Harris. And Emma, what gems can you mine here about Peter Sellers? Because there's not a lot in this episode to suggest the illustrious career that he had.
No. Yeah, so Peter Sellers was an actor, comedian, radio, TV and film star. I suppose he's best well known for his character Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther films that he did with Blake Edwards. He first came to prominence on The Goon Show on BBC Radio with Spike Milligan and Harry Seacombe. And apparently he made his debut as a child at the King's Theatre in Portsmouth.
Yeah, he's from Southsea.
Because he comes from Southsea.
I've performed there.
Where he did like a variety act. He's been in films such as Doctor Strangelove, Casino Royale, The Millionairess, and he basically kind of created, let's say, some interesting characters, for a looser term. And he just kind of showed up in a lot of different films and TV, and unfortunately, he died in 1980, so only 2 years after his appearance on The Muppet Show.
Oh gosh, I don't think I actually quite realised when he passed away. It's a real shame that this is quite a horrendous episode in so many ways, because Peter Sellers is quite an iconic piece of sort of British comedy and actually British film history. It's a real shame that this is what we have as his sort of record with the Muppets.
I think so. I did see on his Wikipedia that he was struggling a lot with addiction and issues in the 70s. And I think you can see that in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I also saw that on Muppet Wiki, thanks Muppet Wiki, that he actually didn't want to do a talk spot, because he just didn't, at that point, he was so lost on who he actually was that he couldn't just be himself when he was speaking to Kermit. And that's why we had that kind of crazy backstage business with him and Kermit, where he was kind of dressed up as, well, meant to be like Queen Victoria.
Whatever that was. Yeah. I wrote down in my notes, like, this screams, get me to a therapist.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I can't be myself. I was like, ugh.
This is a cry for help if ever there was one.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it though, and I'm kind of not surprised this is the episode we get from him, because he obviously was known for doing lots of characters. And if you think about his most famous characters, they're not British or American.
Well, there's a combination, isn't there? Like, obviously, we have Inspector Clouseau, which Now, I don't know what the cultural standing in the sort of year 2022 is for Inspector Clouseau, considering we got a Pink Panther with Steve Martin and Beyonce in the image too.
And actually, the Ty Burrell character in Muppets Most Wanted is not exactly a million miles off either, is it really?
Yes, I agree. And, you know, in the sort of the Doctor Strangelove vein and in the character we get in the sort of the Link sketch later, the kind of slightly menacing Hitler-esque German, there is a little part of me that's sort of like, well, all these people did live through the war, so I wonder whether they get at least maybe like a vague pass of being like, if they want to do a slightly like wacky maniacal German, like, you know, like, I don't know, I'm not like, they're parodying Hitler. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think that one's a pretty like a free range. You know what I mean? Like, I think we can make fun of like a crazy Hitler-esque, you know, character. I mean, as soon as he sort of walked in that sketch, you're getting like his the Doctor Strangelove character.
Yeah.
But obviously, this first number we get from him, which I am so. I so don't even want to talk about it, but it's everything I've written down is me desperately trying to like find an offshoot conversation from it instead of having to actually talk about it.
Before we get into that, shall we just? I just want to talk very quickly about the cold open and also the little
Statler. Yeah, absolutely.
Statler and Waldorf.
Oh yeah, anything that will stop us having to talk about this that number.
Exactly.
Let's do it. Anything.
Let's rewind.
What are you going to have for lunch today? Like, tell me in great detail.
I liked that we opened with him in his Inspector Clouseau garb. It was a nice little nod. I'm guessing for whatever reason they weren't allowed or they didn't feel like they could do a proper Inspector Clouseau number or sketch. But I think just having that snippet at the start, I think, was a really nice touch because it would have been what audiences were most associating with him with at that time, I'm sure.
I wonder if he had sort of asked that it was only a little brief appearance. I don't know, because from what I know of Peter Sellers, I think he was quite an egotistical man, despite also having like a lot of like self-doubt. You know, the two often go hand in hand. I wonder if it was sort of like his allowance for letting the sort of Inspector Clouseau character on it, as long as it was only a very brief appearance, rather than building an entire, you know, sketch or number or whatever around it, sort of acquiescing to that. So then it's like, yeah, we'll get it out of the way, but then I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Gonzo was a good pairing for it too, because Gonzo just, I mean, he was having the time of his life.
I know. I love the fact that he was holding like this tiny mirror to like throw the knives.
He was holding a little compact, basically. Just...
It was great. It was really good. Yeah, and I just wanted to very quickly mention Statler and Waldorf coughing and blowing the nose in time to the theme tune. Like, we are recording this in mid-November and there are so many germs and bugs going around, and I was really like, oh my god, the Muppet Show is infected as well. Like, no!
Yeah. I was at a Moona gig on Friday and we had to go see them in Brighton because London was sold out, and we were actually in a really small, very good venue. Well, very small venue, which was good, but it was like a student-y, like, bar kind of venue, and we were surrounded by these, like, young queer students, and everybody was coughing and spluttering. And I was like, oh, precious flu! And, like, get away from me.
That's not good.
Yeah.
And then Beautiful Day Monster turning up behind Gonzo to blow an even bigger horn and knock him. Like, I'm not just trying to deflect from talking about the rest of the episode, but actually, like, the start of the episode is fairly strong.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably, like, the strongest backstage business and Gonzo moment that we've had for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one upside, I think, this week is Gonzo is full wacky Gonzo.
Yeah.
Thanks to sort of the sort of unleashing of that kind of energy that Peter Sellers gives. Anyway, Gonzo really sort of falls into the mode that we know him to be. So if there is an upside to be found, yeah, you're right, Emma. It's Gonzo sort of going for it and getting some good material this week. So we had a little discussion before we came on mic. We will be using the term traveller for the rest of this discussion, but just for completism, Jade, what is the name of this number?
So the name of the song is A Gypsy's Violin, and it's by Abe Burrows, who actually, they must have got another deal with a publishing house, because Abe Burrows also wrote When, which is the song that Rolf sings. And he also wrote Memory Lane, which is the UK spot that Gonzo sings with Rolf.
Wow, they got a 3-for-1 deal.
And then the other thing to note about Abe Burrows is that he's James Burrows' dad. So Cheers, Will and Grace, Seinfeld, very famous director, done lots of pilots of TV shows. Still directing, even though I think he's like 80. But one of the most prolific
sitcom
comedy, particularly in front of a live studio audience. Sitcom directors.
Didn't he do all of Frasier?
He did do Frasier. I'm not sure if he did all of it, but he did do it.
You just called it Frasier.
Frasier. Did I say it?
You said Fraser. I should know. I'm Frasier.
Yeah, he definitely did some of it. I'm not sure if he did all of it. But he even did things like The Big Bang Theory, for instance. He did the pilot for that. And he's still working with Chuck Lorre, like Be Positive. He's done some episodes of and things. Yes. Anyway, his dad wrote these songs. And he was also obviously in comedy, but I think predominantly more in theatre and radio. And, just slightly older mediums than television, basically, is what I'm saying.
So it goes without saying that this is racist and goes fully into the stereotypes of the traveller community. It is entirely inappropriate. He is browned up. He is wearing this kind of, stereotypical garb. There is a traveller painted like caravan on stage, which Emma did make me think about. Do you remember Paultons Park used to have like a collection of painted caravans? And I was trying to remember, like, did they have some like dodgy mannequins at Paultons Park along with?
Yeah.
Like, no, I have not been to Paultons Park in a while, but I do wonder what's happened to their
I assume that has been
wagon
replaced by the Peppa Pig world.
It's been knocked down to make way for like Daddy Pig's roller coaster or something. Boop, 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 boop,
For a muddy puddle extravaganza or something.
Yeah, muddy puddle log flume or something.
Hold on, I'm gonna actually, again, we are deflecting. I'm gonna look up the map for Paultons Park.
Oh, Joe, I've got at least 3 other places we can go rather than having to actually talk about the sketch in my notes here. While you're looking up that, Peter said, why is he doing an impression of Meryl Streep in Mary Poppins Returns? Which I thought was such a great shout. Like, the voice he's doing is literally her being like, turning turtle. My upsies from my topsies and my gypsies and my bloopsies. It's like, what are we doing here? How long is this?
Hold on, so we used to go around that way. Oh god, this is wild. I haven't been to Paultons Park in a very, very long time, but let me tell you, it has changed.
Oh no. Is there still the owl that can scare Emma? Like the it's a hoot hoot at Paultons Park.
Have they got rid of Percy? I bet they've got rid of Percy.
He's been replaced by Peppa Pig.
I think it's all about Peppa. Yeah.
It's just a guy in a Peppa Pig outfit kicking out an owl like into the mud, like Peppa just kicking Percy like directly into the crotch.
I think that bit that had the caravans in is Peppa Pig World now.
No way, that's so funny.
I think it might be like where there's Peppa's Big Balloon Ride, the Windy Castle.
Windy Castle?
No idea what that is. Oh, hold on. You ready for what Daddy Pig has?
What does he have?
Daddy Pig's Tummy Cafe. Why is it called Tummy Cafe? Oh, sorry, it's even worse. It's Daddy Pig's Big Tummy Cafe. The big was on Daddy Pig and I didn't see it to start with.
I kind of like the sound of Daddy Pig's Big Tummy Cafe.
Yeah, because you think it's something entirely inappropriate for the children, Lewis.
Yes, it's for the children.
Big tummy. Do they do adult evenings at Daddy Pig's Big Tummy Cafe?
I'm going to let you look that up in your own time, okay?
Peppa Pig World After Dark, like adults only. Is there a Pleasure Island to the Peppa Pig World option?
That might be a Grampy Rabbit Sailing Club. That's another.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that's enough Paultons
Daddy
Park
Pig
promotion for
I was going to say, we're doing like a promotion show rather than a podcast.
Can you see? Do they still have that weird Wind in the Willows diorama?
No, I
Is
think that
still...
went, because I asked about that, and I
You ask about that? Who? Who did you ask?
I have multiple very small cousins still.
Oh, okay.
So-
Sorry, I was like, I thought you were like emailing Paultons Park, being like, I need to know what's the stage of the Wind in the Willows
She tracked
diorama.
down Percy the Owl to find out.
No, I've asked about the Wind in the Willows. I've asked, do you remember that bit that was like the different nursery rhymes, and you hit the button and like the spider would go up, or the mouse would go up the clock, or whatever. I've asked about that. That's gone. I think the dinosaurs are still there, which cracks me up, because I'm like, they looked terrible when we were kids. Like, why are there still dinosaurs?
But does that mean they still have the big slide that you get in a sack
I think they still have
with?
the big slide, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, I think a lot of the...
Daddy Pig's big sack slide.
Paultons, you're missing out on some core business here.
Just me coming into a business meeting going, what if we made it horny and weird? We get Peppa Pig and then we just draw a little like nose ring on just like just so desperately not wanting to talk about this awful racist number.
Okay, I'm just gonna blast through some quick thoughts on it.
Blast through like you're running Daddy Pig's big sack slide.
Exactly, and it's all downhill.
Yeah.
The goat in the background, I just kept watching the
That poor
goat because
goat.
I really didn't want to engage with much else, but I just felt so sorry for this poor goat, and it was clearly very uninterested in being involved in the number. There was one tiny little Muppet that was sat down on the floor who looked a bit like a mini human version or Muppety human version of Beaker. I don't know if you clocked him. He had this like shock of orange hair, and his facial expression was not that dissimilar to Beaker.
Oh. I didn't clock that, did you, Emma?
No, I didn't. I was like Jade. I was kind of trying to look at anything else, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's a real fire. There's a goat.
Oh, there's a cobweb over there
Yep.
I need to dust. Maybe I should rearrange my books.
I did write down that he was fully committed. That's about the most positive thing I can come up with this, but I think in a way that actually makes it worse. That
Yeah.
the commitment to the racism is so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the way that Matt Lucas and David Walliams used to be committed to their
Yeah.
outwardly racist characters.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's just bad. And it goes on for ages as well. And it's just sort of, relentless.
Yeah. Question, have either of you watched I have not, the Robert Zemeckis Pinocchio live-action remake?
No.
No.
Okay, because neither have I, because obviously every single thing I've heard is it's terrible. But I was wondering how they do the entire sort of Pinocchio goes off to join the theatre and then gets captured by that guy. And I was like, oh, I wonder how they do that. Because I only watched Pinocchio, the animated version, for the first time last year. And I was like, wow, we are playing into some stereotypes here. And I was just wondering how they did that in the
new one, I don't know.
But...
And I don't know how, I mean, everything I've heard about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is great. Everyone's raving about it. But I don't know how he's done it either.
Yeah. How strange that we have two Pinocchio adaptions in and then there was that one last year with the father, please, let me be on my own. I've got the whole world to see. And it's like, who is this gay little Pinocchio just like skipping about? Who sounds like Lola Stumpy from Big Mouth. Father, please. I want to be on my own.
I don't know why it happens that there's like multiple films or things of the same thing that happen at the same time. It's really, really strange.
what a great quote, Jade. I don't know why there are always multiple things happening at the same time.
No, you know what I mean. Like,
how profound. Get that into sight and sound now. Like,
you know what I'm saying.
I do.
It's just bizarre. I genuinely don't understand why it's always like competing projects of the same property. It's really...
Why have we got Bugs Life and Ants?
Well, no, that's just a straight up copy. But like, like when they announce like that 2 companies are going to do a new Little Mermaid, or 2 Pinocchios or whatever, like but then there are some people seeing sense. Like, did you see Jennifer Lawrence is like, she said she's not going to do Elizabeth Holmes because she's like, Amanda Seyfried's done it and I don't need to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, good for you, Jennifer Lawrence. Like,
yeah, good.
Yeah. Anyhow, right, we've deflected enough. I think we need to move on.
Yes, we do.
I say I liked this backstage bit. It's the start of the carnage and the chaos, which did make me feel like I was on my way to having a panic attack. But what I did like about it was Gonzo flying past on the motorbike for no reason whatsoever other than to add to the carnage and the chaos. This is great. This is what we want from Gonzo. We just want, like, it doesn't have to make any sense. It can just be a laugh.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
And I do think, like we said before, I think it was a bit of a wasted opportunity that they didn't use more of like Gonzo and Peter Sellers together. I think that could have been like a really good like match in terms of like them sort of being together in like songs and sketches, and also even the bit then when he like flies in on the motorbike, you can kind of imagine quite a zany like Peter Sellers kind of sketch with Gonzo on a motorbike. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just felt like it's a shame because it was a bit random because it came from nowhere, but it was kind of wasted, really.
Yeah.
They have the same off-kilter vibe.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see a sketch where, even if Peter didn't want to do a character, like doing something like what are they called? The Bombolini brothers or whoever, what are they called? On
the
Zucchini brothers.
Zucchini.
Bumba Bumba is what they say.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
I called them Bumba Bumba brothers in one episode because I forgot they were called the Zucchini brothers.
That's it.
But
That's
they're
what I was
called
going
the
with
Zucchini
you.
brothers.
Look, it's not my fault. I had to briefly work at a restaurant that was literally called Bunga Bunga. So, I don't know. But, having them as, the Zucchini brothers or some sort of equivalent in matching outfits, doing, I don't know, something, it just would have been so much better than racist songs or bizarre psychosexual masseuses. It was just very strange. And then to add to the madness, you're right, we have Bunsen Honeydew just appearing and disappearing like he's Billy Piper in season 4 of Doctor Who, just being like, hi! And then bye.
I thought the effect of the teleporter was actually really well done throughout the whole episode.
Yeah,
because
I loved the like, bing! When they just like appeared. It was very like 1970s sci-fi. Pop!
Very bewitched, I thought.
Yeah.
Yes!
It was very bewitched. Just waiting for somebody to wriggle their nose and be on their way.
Oh my god. The amount of time I tried to spend after seeing that terrible Nicole Kidman film trying to like...
I used to be able to do it. I don't think I can anymore.
Because it's all about like actually moving your mouth, not your...
For the audiences, Lewis and Jade are currently trying to wiggle their nose like Samantha.
Like Nicole Kidman.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Elizabeth Montgomery.
She can't do that anymore.
Oh!
I love her, but she can't. She couldn't do that.
I'm always quite surprised by how much her face can still move. I mean... She does seem to be choosing characters where they don't have to move their face so much, but like
serene, still, centered, no facial expression beyond
internal chaos. Just
project the internal chaos onto that blank slate.
A beautiful blank slate, expensive, beautiful blank slate.
She looks amazing. There's no denying it. Some of the best work.
Watched her... I assume you've both watched her, like, Vogue 73 questions.
Oh, I don't think I have seen that.
Oh, right, not to
No,
do
we're not
another,
spending
like,
the rest of the podcast.
Control with Hubby Mark. Like, I'm not going to make you watch
Hubby
the whole
Mark.
thing. But there's a bit where she's wandering around, she's on her farm in Australia, and There's a bit where, it's meant to be a pretty, fun, casual interview, and the interviewer's like, how are you feeling right now, Nicole? And she turns around, she's like, pretty raw, actually. And you're like, okay, all right, so this isn't quite the vibe we're going for, Nicole. But from what I've heard, she is just, a complete weirdo.
Yeah, I think so.
And I like that. I like that she's, this beautiful, serene elfin woman, and then it's, cuckoo bananas. Oh, God. I'd love to meet Nicole Kidman. In another universe, if I got cast in the movie that I auditioned for, the Euros Lanthimos one, Killing of a Sacred Deer, I could have been in scenes with Nicole Kidman. There's a world where I'm, crazily eating spaghetti in front of Nicole Kidman. But alas, I didn't get that part. Anywho, should we just go on to Rolf? Emma, how did you feel about this one?
The one bit of sanity in this otherwise insane episode, we go to Rolf on the piano, who plays a lovely song called When.
When the whippoorwill is singing in the forest. That's a whippoorwill right there. When the little brook is murmuring a tune. When the mockingbird is chirping in the wildwood. And a lonely wolf is howling at the moon. When the leaves of the old oak tree start a-rustling, and a waterfall makes sounds like woman's tears. When the whole world is filled with Mother Nature's noises, that's the time to stuff cotton in your ears.
The candelabra is back with the live flames again.
Health and safety monitor Emma is already frantically writing down no.
Those candles are stubs. They are about to burn out.
Yeah.
Was this just a end of the week, we're going to chuck this on quickly kind of thing? Because, I just did not understand why the candles were so low on the candelabra. I was a bit worried about it too, Emma. I won't lie.
I mean, is it the late 70s cost of living crisis?
Yeah,
the winter of
probably.
our discontent? Do you know what I mean? We can't be wasting candles on Muppets.
No, there's explosions to do that for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't heat yourself with an explosion. Well, I suppose it depends how close you get.
It was quite a sweet little calm song, although at the ending was a little bit strange where he was stuff cotton in your ears, and it was okay, that's when he's talking about the sounds of Mother Nature, and then he ends with that. It's quite a strange little ending to the song.
Yeah, it was.
I think it's just meant to be the punchline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's another A Burrows song, so I guess this has certainly got more comedy in it than the first number. But yeah, it's obviously meant to be a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so lovely watching Rolf sing and play. There's so much expression and so much movement, and I thought the puppeteering on this was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I mean maybe I'm just clinging to it because, what had come before was so horrendous, but it really did feel just really lovely, Muppety good vibes. I really liked it. And we actually got quite a lot of Rolf in this episode, which, is sort of a bit of a shining light in the darkness of the rest of it.
Kept Emma happy.
I did notice that the Statler and Waldorf insert after this, it was shot from a different angle. I don't know if you both noticed that.
I did not.
It was shot from from our perspective, looking up at the box from the right, whereas we normally always see them from the left.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And it was from quite a low angle as well. And I was just oh, this is a new angle we've not seen before, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see.
Keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, be interesting to see whether we get more different Statler and Waldorf angles introduced.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I thought I'd watched this after a few drinks yesterday, so I was like, maybe it was my perspective on it. I was like, wait, what? So glad to hear that that's been verified by you. It's not just being me watching it with one eye open.
Yeah. No, you were not seeing things.
Good. Well, you say that, and then we cut to backstage, and my son is bopping up all over the place, and he's meeping. He's actually meeping, doing his little beaker meep, 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 meep. We're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was full on meeping, but it was certainly like a squeaky kind of noise, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's a lot closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one solid meep rather than multiple
Yeah.
meeps. It's like the
Yeah.
meep, meep, meep. Yeah, rather than meep, 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 meep. I love him so much.
I really loved when he tried to hide and he like slid down his shirt and it was just his eyes poking out on the top of the collar. It was
Just a perfect little puppet.
It was so great. It was so cool.
I love him so much.
I love that he kept turning up with like trays of equipment and stuff too. It's like, it really is like it's the middle of an experiment that Dr. Bunsen's doing and it's almost going wrong because it's like, well, you've got a tray of equipment. Surely you shouldn't have teleported at this exact moment. Why have you teleported with all of this stuff? But I loved
He'll be
it.
praying for that tray of equipment compared to what he's teleporting with later on.
Yeah.
Bring me back the tray. Maybe that's a scalpel and I can kill this gorilla. If you just cut back to the teleport and Beaker's had to like slit the throat of his gorilla and it's just like just pouring out and he's like he's just like freaking out. And Bunsen's like, ooh, very good. We've managed to do it. Beaker's just traumatized, holding a little scalpel. Kermit's growing frustration is incredibly cute in this backstage sequence.
It's so seamless how the cutting in and the cutting out of the characters appearing and disappearing, Kermit getting more and more frazzled and irate, and then every time Scooter coming in and saying that he's either talking to himself or yelling to himself. It's all really, really well done and very, very sitcom-y, I guess. Like it feels like a proper runner. I mean, there's not a ton of storyline, but the way that it's put together makes it feel like there's a bit more of a story there. And there's certainly progression with Kermit's character in terms of his increasing agitation, I guess, at everything being so chaotic.
Although, that being said, for it to be it's the A plot. I mean, as soon as you have it's Bunsen bopping up and like appearing in the it doesn't take a genius to go, they've invented a teleport at Muppet Labs. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite a
it's not a mystery.
A puzzle box mystery to... No, it's like, well, I guess they built a teleport. And now we'll just see what hijinks ensue.
I think it's more... Yeah, I guess the progression is more like with Kermit's character and leading to It's Not Easy Being Green, rather than any sort of form of like... I mean, I know Kermit thinks it's a mystery, but honestly, I think Kermit's just so frazzled he hasn't worked out... He hasn't actually sat and thought about it for even 10 seconds. Because when he eventually does turn up in Muppet Labs, you're like, how have you not realised that this is what's happening? But I don't think that's the point, is it? Like, the point is just that we're meant to see the frog getting a bit crazy.
Yeah. Well, from a crazy frog to a very strange backstage sketch, we've got Peter chatting to Kermit, planning an impression of Queen Victoria in Bognor Regis, but he's dressed in a corset and a Viking hat, and they have just a very interminable conversation, and all my notes are, do we think Peter Sellers would have been hard work? And, something, never be myself. Oh my, get to therapy, Peter Sellers. Emma, what were your thoughts on this sketch as a thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wrote, this is wild. Like, I don't know...
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on, and like you say, you just watch it and you just think, I don't think Peter Sellers knows who he is anymore. Like, it's just really bizarre, to be honest. I think even like when Kermit's reacting to him, it's kind of like, okay, yep, let's just keep going and get to the end of this. But no, it was super, super strange. And then especially the part where he then decides to do the soliloquy from Richard III and brings on those two chickens and like squeezes them, and it's just like,
it's way too absurd, and it's weird that it's absurd, but then like it feels incredibly truthful as well at this in that sort of first half where Peter Sellers is insisting on being this other weird Peter Sellers character. and like, oh, I can't be myself. You're like, oh, I think we're making the subtext text here, Peter. I don't know if we're. I just felt really uncomfortable.
See, I actually didn't mind when it got to the soliloquy and chickens part. Like, that felt more Muppet Show and very, very stupid. And then the fact that they doubled down on it with Kermit telling him he couldn't do that on the show because Gonzo did it last week, and then Gonzo coming on and being like, it died, these audience are idiots, they don't appreciate, like
that was fine. I agree.
That
was
bit
fine.
when Gonzo came on, that bit was it was good.
And right, just Gonzo saying it died.
It
was great. That was great.
It was really good. So I think like I could kind of forgive just the general absurdity and fun level of that, because I feel like Peter Sellers' episode at large gave me kind of like Zero Mostel, Peter Ustinov kind of vibes. But actually, like, this felt a lot more just like Muppety and enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, 100% agree about the first part. The line where he actually says, like, there used to be a me, but I had it surgically removed. That's actually like a really famous Peter Sellers quote that's said about him, that he obviously was struggling.
Yeah.
And like didn't really have a sense of self and had got lost in all of these different characters. So it's kind of amazing that like he says that to Kermit, and that's like something that's like still discussed about, but it's on the Muppet Show. But yeah, I mean it's I think uncomfortable is a good word to describe that opening bit, because you are not on a sure footing. He just seems like a man completely on the edge that is fully losing it. And I guess in a way that is kind of, for me, it's kind of underlined by the fact that when he actually does get into the soliloquy and is doing the comedy bit, he seems a lot more certain and sure of himself, and you can enjoy that. But the bit before, you just don't really know what to make of it, do you? It's like, you shouldn't be doing this. You need help.
It's like the Muppet Show is a party, and you are Kermit stuck talking to the person who is like the depressed drunk, and you're like, how do I get out of this conversation? And you're just like, oh god, we met 6 minutes ago and I know too much about you now. And you're like, oh, that's terrible, I'm so sorry, oh god. So how do you know the host? And then it's like, I don't, I'm a friend of a person who's here. And you're like, oh god, like, there's nobody here to rescue me. Like, I'm gonna go see if there's any more food at the buffet table. I'll be right back, I promise. Run.
I feel like a lot of this must have come from him wanting to do it, right? Like, there's no way that this is something that the Jerry Jewell is sat there pitching, being like, let's discuss your multiple personality disorder, and you can.
Well, I don't know, unless obviously if that quote of his has already reached a certain level of prominence, maybe the idea of writing a sketch around that idea. But I don't think they would have expected quite how much melancholy Peter Sellers might have brought to it. Do you know what I mean? I think if you sort of say like, oh, we'll have him in a Viking hat and a corset and saying, I'm going to be Queen Victoria and Bognor Regis, you can see the sort of the wackadoo kind of exuberant version of that, and him being like, I don't know who I am. Oh, don't worry. There used to be me, but I had it surgically removed. Waka waka. And instead we get a haunting monologue.
Like, I used to be me, but I had it
like
surgically
he's kind of like
removed.
glassy-eyed and a bit kind of like his even, I feel like even his eyeline to Kermit wasn't quite right a lot. And that just sort of added to this, uncomfortable, tears of a clown, kind of vibe of this.
Yeah, but I think it kind of went even further than that, because normally with that sort of thing, you're still sort of in on it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this just felt sort of deep and personal that it's like, why is this being committed to something that like the
why
general
is this being
public
committed to film rather than Peter Sellers being
committed? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we end with a bomb. So we're back to Muppet territory firmly by the end.
Yeah, and I think the second half of it picks up massively because of the conversation he has with Gonzo. So it doesn't stay in that tone or register, but yeah, it's certainly a complicated viewing experience.
Much to consider.
The next bit I thought was so interesting because Kermit introduces the UK spot.
Yeah.
Which, when I first watched it, I assumed it wasn't the UK spot because we never get an introduction for the UK spot. My only thing I can think is that they knew that this was going to be the big New Year's Day episode with Peter Sellers, and maybe they thought that they'd do a little something extra specifically for the UK audience because it was going to be like this big episode. Because obviously that intro would have been cut in the States and everywhere else where they didn't get the UK spot. So it's just like a little extra something.
I wondered if they thought just the number was too short.
Well, maybe that too.
And they added a little... It's quite a fun little sketch of
Yeah.
Kermit having to deal with some gum on his flipper.
It's great. I thought the puppeteering was absolutely brilliant. I haven't even got the right words, but like the physicality and the sort of like that sense of gravity and stuckness. Like you really believe that he is actually stuck to the floor. It's really, really great little bit of physical comedy.
Business.
Yeah,
I
and
wouldn't
also
even know where to begin.
what I was just thinking as well is the fact that in America they would have gone straight from that Peter Kermit dressing room into Link and Peter's sketch.
yeah.
I mean,
Ooh,
that's kind of
Jesus.
intense. Whereas at least in the UK we had the little light relief of Gonzo and Rolf.
Yeah, we got a little palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, Emma, that's a good point. Like that's... People must have turned off, didn't they?
But maybe people... I don't know. I don't know. I suppose the sort of the Doctor Strangelove-esque character is a lot more of familiar territory for a Peter Sellers audience. So, you know, that maybe is sort of like, okay, well, that last bit was weird, but we know what this is. We all know a crazy Nazi when we see one, so we're back on familiar ground now. Just like...
I can breathe a sigh of relief. I know what they're doing now.
Oh, thank God, a comedy Nazi.
Oh, it's just a Nazi. Don't worry about it. It's not a man having a crisis while wearing a corset and a Viking hat. Playing two chickens.
Oh, yeah. Having an existential crisis in a Viking hat and a corset. Just call it what it is, Jade. Just call it the Edinburgh Free Fringe. Like, that's all. Emma, Rolf correspondent, how did this stack up for you?
Oh, I thought it was really sweet. It was a nice bit of levity, considering what we just saw. And I love the fact that Rolf looked around to like make sure Gonzo was ready to start playing the piano. And I love like Gonzo's little like shuffle and his movements. And I love the fact that he does like a little bit where he moves the piano as well. I thought it was quite sweet and quite cute. I thought it was quite a nice song, and it was nice to see like Gonzo and Rolf together in this bit.
I am strolling down memory lane without a single thing to remember. I am strolling down memory lane without even a dying ember. Some folks remember their mothers, and others their girlfriends behind. But I am strolling down memory lane without a ding-dong thing on my mind.
I wasn't sure on it until we got a bit more of the wacky business of Gonzo sort of walking from... I was going to say, like, stage right to stage left. But, you know, and then he reappears in the same place.
Yeah.
And Rolf being a bit like, what?
Yeah.
And then his ability to move the entire upright piano and Rolf. That is one strong little whatever.
So the song is Memory Lane. It's our third Abe Burrows number. Just to...
By this point, we've just paid for Abe Burrows'
Yeah.
games room and or pool. I don't know, like what we've paid for.
Abe Burrows had a lovely holiday that year. Took the whole family to Hawaii. Yeah, I agree with you, Lewis. I thought it was quite static until he started doing the sort of bobbing off stage, reappearing, and then obviously there was the business with the piano and everything. Something I did notice straight away, following on from our conversation with Warwick, that Rolf was on the other side than when he usually is. The piano was facing to the left rather than facing to the right. But then I think that was obviously because Gonzo was then going to push it. So I guess that was why they set it up that way. But also, I was thinking about it, and when my first note with that bit, I just wrote, Gonzo wheels Rolf off. And then when I watched it the second time, I was like, well, he doesn't. Because actually, what's going on puppeteering-wise there, that must have been actually quite hard to actually puppeteer, because to make it look like Gonzo is just sort of pushing the piano and Rolf just moves with it, like as if everything is on wheels. Like, again, for a UK spot, that's actually quite a complicated bit of, I think, puppeteering to pull off as seamlessly as they do. And I'm also wondering if that's why at the beginning it's quite static with Gonzo in the, so close to the camera and Rolf just in the background, because I guess they knew that there was something a bit more difficult to come.
Because I did notice we get either a little zoom or a track in before it happens. Like, we're at one point and then we do head closer, and I wondered what that meant in regards of how they're moving underneath. Yeah. I suppose if you, of course, if you move the frame in, you move the piano less, don't you?
Yeah, you don't have to move as much. Yeah,
because if it's kept in that wide shot, you have to actually shift.
Yeah, you have to move it a lot further. Yeah.
Badoy, like, perspective, Lewis. You did film studies. Remember any of these things?
I think the other thing as well is that Rolf isn't in. He's not got a light on him until right at the end, and I wonder if that was another way that they made it look a bit. Like, I wonder if they did it first of all with a light up, and they felt like the effect wasn't as good as moving it, because the light literally only comes up right at the very end, and he's really quite in darkness against that flat. But I think they're still using the UK spot to try things out and to sort of experiment with what they can do and different effects and things. But I think with this one, it's really effective, and it's just a breath of fresh air in this in the nightmare of the rest of it.
Speaking of nightmares, chiropractor appointment with Nazi. Let's do it. Let's go. Emma, thoughts, concerns? Go.
Yeah, no, again, I was like, this is absolutely wild and slightly, well, it is kind of insane. Like, the whole premise of it is just weird, and the whole thing with Link and the foam legs just really freaked me out a bit.
I don't even think it's foam legs. I think it's just a pair of trousers that have nothing in, right? Like, they're just flat.
Like a bit of stuffing in them.
Yeah,
like
there's like a
light
bit of stuffing in there, but oh my goodness, that was just like...
Daddy Pig's light stuffing. Oh, God.
So the Peter Sellers character is named Dr. Merkwür de Lieber. I still can't say it. Anyway, it's like a bad...
Dua Lipa.
It's a bad translation of Dr. Strangelove. So it's like Dr. Strangelove in German. Dr. Merkwür de Lieber. That's slightly better. Yeah. Sorry, I've never learnt German, so I'm going to forgive myself for the bad pronunciation. Yeah, I think this just... I didn't hate it, and clearly you could see that Peter Sellers was ad-libbing and adding little bits in and making it his own, which I kind of appreciated, because I think that's what you want from him. Like, you want him to bring his comedy to the show. But yeah, it just, I suppose it's not even Uncanny Valley, is it? It just sort of like stretches the realms of realism within the show, and like that believability of the Muppets being real characters. And I think having linked, prodded and moved around in this way, it's kind of fun when he ends up in like the pretzel shape at the end. Like, he does look
twisty
ridiculous.
Bobcat pretzel.
But yeah, like the whole thing with all of the dumbbells and the rolling of the legs and all of that, like I don't know. I think it just sort of breaks the magic a little bit.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, in Muppet's Treasure Island, where Gonzo gets put on the rack and he gets stretched out. But the thing that really sells it is in the next scene where he's up on deck and his limbs are huge and long and Mr. Tickle-esque. And so you're like, oh, wow, look at that puppeteering magic to sell the previous moment. And then, he gets almost snapped up like a window blind and back in place. Whereas this doesn't have any of that magic. If there had been a way that, they'd roll that leg up and then he'd put it down and then he would be able, the puppet bent his leg in some way. So Link was like, oh, that feels much better. You'd go, oh, that's cool. But when it's literally just... for all intents and purposes, a Sue Sylvester red tracksuit with some, I don't know, cotton stuffing in it being rolled along a dumbbell. It's a bit like, okay.
I did think Jim was puppeteering Link well. The second time I watched it, I was really watching how he was moving, his shoulders and his head and obviously the expression he was giving him. And I think Jim was trying to sell it as much as he possibly could. In a way that was almost too good for the rest of the sketch, if you like, because the fact that the legs were so unbelievable just kind of undercut the great puppeteering that was going on, with the head and the shoulders.
I was curious about the choice to bring in ostensibly his Doctor Strangelove character, of course, without the wheelchair and the does he have a metal hand in that as well? I'm trying to remember. I haven't watched Doctor Strangelove in a long time.
No, I haven't seen it in a while either.
Yeah. But to choose that rather than, say, do a sketch with Inspector Clouseau, I have to think that he made that insistence because, to have done a sketch with Inspector Clouseau and the Muppets just seems like such natural sense. There's a murder mystery, and Clouseau has to come and solve it or something like that. And instead to elect to bring in your creepy Nazi character, it feels like such a choice.
Yeah, now we're speaking about it, I feel like I might have read it in Julie Andrews' second book where she was saying a bit about Peter Sellers and obviously Blake in the Pink Panther films, and I think she was saying near the end Peter was really resistant on doing it and being Inspector Clouseau, so I'm not sure if maybe this is why in this episode, like you say, we only see a very small snippet of him at the beginning because at this point maybe he just kind of had enough of being that character. I don't know. No,
that does make sense. I mean, yeah, the fact that that character is used so sparingly does imply that, definitely. But it's just very odd that then the next choice is, who is his next most famous character? It's like, Nazi! Yeah. I still think it's a fun-ish sketch. I mean, it's weird as hell. I mean, Peter being like, I know a good muscle when I feel one. It's Link. It's like, oh God.
And also I thought Link's help was quite guttural. It was a bit oh.
Oh, at the end when he is literally howling on stage. I mean, that is actually quite disturbing, and Fozzie and Kermit are just was that meant to go like that?
Yeah.
Which implies that Peter Sellers is out of control.
Yeah.
For the Muppet Show, Peter Sellers is a liability. They're like, Christ, was he meant to do that? I love the idea of them having to have some sort of crisis meeting about Peter Sellers in Kermit's dressing room or office, being like, what are we going to do? He's just bending Muppets up and he keeps insisting on playing a Nazi. Having a crisis production meeting, being like, we should never have brought Peter Sellers here. Why can't we have Julie Andrews back?
I mean, this is probably literally what they were all actually doing in Jim's office.
Yeah.
Jim, Frank, Jerry, all just stood around being like, shit, what are we going to do?
That Peter O'Toole is not good.
Yeah. This is meant to be our big New Year's Day episode and it's not going well.
And all it's got is the energy of a New Year's Day hangover, with all of the sort of regret and fear that comes with January starting all over again. They've really caught the energy of a January 1st perfectly in this episode. Now, I mean, I gotta say, I do not think this runner justifies the use of "it's not that easy being green."
I don't know. It did have me feeling very frazzled. I fully got where Kermit was coming from.
Yeah. I also feel like, in a way, a bit like you said, I think they must have had some sort of production meeting and Jim being like, how do we pull this back?
Yeah, like let's do a number people really know. Yeah.
Oh boy. You may have noticed that we're not terribly well organized around here, and tonight I'm just barely making it. I don't know. Sometimes it's very difficult.
It's not easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves. When I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that.
It's just, it feels, because he shouldn't really be saying it's not that easy being big. It's like, it's not that easy dealing with a manic depressive character actor. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and I think they sold it enough with the, like, because even the reason that Kermit goes on to do it, you know, Prunella and her prancing poultry being cancelled because it's the first day of duck hunting season. I mean, even that for the Muppet Show is quite like, oh my god, okay.
the act's dead.
Yeah, like we've spoken about before, like
It died.
when they blend the realism of these animals being killed for meat. And then like it's you know, even that is like, oh my life, like it's very jarring. Yeah, I think they were like, we need to pull this back with a classic that's gonna calm everyone down. I do think it's interesting though, because obviously the first time we saw It's Not Easy Being Green on the Muppet Show was the Peter Ustinov episode, and now we're using it for the Peter Sellers episode, and I'm like, there's a specific type of man that demands Kermit calms everyone down.
We know everybody's shaken by the presence of Peter Sellers, but don't worry, I'm going to do a beautiful ballad, you know, where I sit on a tree stump and sing with honesty and integrity and have beautiful little moments of puppeteering, and everybody will feel a bit more safe while Peter Sellers draws his Hitler moustache on.
I did also feel a little bit unstable with this though, because when it cut that first time and he was suddenly sat on a tree stump as opposed to the box, I was like, whoa, where did that come from? And then it cut again and there was the trees, and then the final time when he was like in the full forest.
A beautiful full forest.
I mean, it was gorgeous. It was so lovely.
Well, I mean, green is meant to be calming, so maybe they were like, let's just chuck it all in. Let's put
all the
trees in.
All the green. But yeah, the first time it happened, I was like, have I lost it? Like, has Kermit just teleported somewhere?
Have I died?
Yeah.
Is that guy dead?
It died!
It died! Yeah, I kind of don't want us to retread what we've said before about It's Not That Easy Being Green. It's a very cute song, and it's lovely just to hear Jim as Kermit sort of sing the number, because he always imbues it with such a... It never feels saccharine. It always feels just kind of, I don't know, it hits a really fine line. And I think that's, you know, that I don't get when, for example, you know, the halfway up the stairs, which I feel falls too far into the sort of schmaltz. Whereas this and Rainbow Connection both kind of hit that level of, it's a bit melancholy, but it's optimistic, but it's so pure because it's coming out of the body of a beautiful little frog.
Yeah. No, it's always lovely to hear it, and I think they did a really gorgeous job of staging it as well. I wasn't expecting it in this episode at all.
No, me obviously. as we swept it, I was like, all right, okay.
But I think it was a much needed balm.
Balm.
I can't even tell you, like, my heart rate was going at this episode because I think I just was like, my god, obviously the first time I watched it I didn't know where it was going, and I was just so worried about what else was coming next, and I did genuinely feel like I'd been shaken around. Like it just didn't. It was not...
So you've been shook like a hysterical woman in a 1930s movie. Like,
Pass me
pull
my
it
smelling
together.
salts.
Somebody like slaps you quickly twice around the face, like once and then once with their backhand. You go, "Thank you, I feel much better now."
Yes. Oh, I pulled myself together.
Yeah, you're being hysterical. From hysteria into "I'm in the midst of a nervous breakdown," which I think is a line from Kermit in this Muppet Lab segment. What was that gorilla? Like, that was such a strange puppet.
It didn't look like a gorilla, I didn't think.
No, it just looked like it looked more like a chimp, but like a weird, horny chimp.
So apparently that puppet is going to come back, although I don't think we're going to see it for a while. And it is eventually named as Quongo.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I didn't name
Alright.
it.
I don't care. Did Peter Sellers name it?
Probably. That's, I mean, even with this, like, I really liked that we finally got to Muppet Labs and we finally got Bunsen talking about his new teleporter and everything. But even this, like, just seemed so dicey and so unnecessary that it was like, oh, Beaker's gone to the deepest jungles of Africa. And it's like, it's so unnecessary. I don't know, I guess it's just because everything else in the episode feels so racist anyway. I'm like, why couldn't Beaker just go, like, somewhere that doesn't have
under
to be
the
so
sea?
exoticized?
Like, I don't know, like,
exactly.
Come back with a shark on him or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Paultons Park, like, so many options.
Come back with a sad Percy the Owl, just like, hoot, hoot, stupid Peppa Pig.
I did enjoy Kermit at the end when he obviously got transported back with the gorilla, and Bunsen was like, "That's all for this week," and Kermit was like, "You bet that's all." Like, he really felt like he was in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, no, that was a good button to the end of that.
Yeah. Still, we still need to work out whether Muppet Labs is getting some kind of funding or if this is all just a fiction. Like, because if they've genuinely invented a teleport, like they shouldn't be doing vaudeville in a failing theatre. They should be, patenting
Getting the
that
Nobel Prize.
Yeah, give them the Macabre Genius grant. Not that. What's his name? Bruce. What's his name? Schwartz and his damn scary puppets. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Dr. Bunsen needs a MacArthur Genius grant to bring the teleporter to the world.
He does. And Beaker needs it so he can put himself into some kind of like protection program away from Bunsen. Just pay for round-the-clock security.
They are obsessed with gorillas with Muppet Labs because we had that gorilla detection thing, didn't we, in season 1?
Yes, we did. Yeah. Look, there's something funny about a gorilla. A gorilla is a good comedy animal.
They are a good comedy animal. I'm just not sure that this was the best use. And also the fact that the puppet didn't look like a gorilla.
No, it did not. Oh, why did it have so many teeth? Oh, God, Emma, take us into this Peter Sellers number as quickly as possible so we can just move on.
Oh, I mean, when we come to this and we've got the intro first with Fozzie and Peter, and he starts doing his, like, winter of discontent speech, and then Fozzie's literally like, yeah, we need to make this shorter, and then he just scrunches down, and then, yeah, we go into this, there are no words for it, there's Peter and the jug band, and the song's called Cigarettes and Whiskey.
Emma, don't you mean cigarettes?
Yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
My first words were Amish Confederates? ?
Yeah.
And it took me way too long to realise that they were saying, like, cigarette wasn't a name. They were just saying cigarettes in a kooky way. I was like, who's cigarette?
Cigarette, I met her on holiday.
Yeah, like that bit, when Lady Gaga performs, it's like the famous clip of her doing Paparazzi, and she goes, cigarette! And it's just, like, so weird. Right, sorry. What is this? What the hell is this?
So it's Cigarettes and Whiskey, which is apparently a song by the Sons of the Pioneers. I have never heard of them. I'm going to assume neither of you have either.
Oh,
no.
The Sons of the Pioneers!
Lewis, you don't need to.
I loved their first album, Trust Us and These Blankets. Brackets, they don't have cholera or TB on them at all.
So... Thank you, Muppet Wiki. They reliably informed me that Peter Sellers is meant to be a Salvation Army preacher. That's the character.
Well, we don't like the Salvation Army anyway, so they can do one.
Yeah. I'm also pretty sure he's got a fake nose on.
I couldn't work out if it was that or if it was painted like a sort of, I don't know, ruddy colour.
It looked bigger, because I compared it to when it went to the goodbyes, and I think his nose is just smaller than that nose is, so I'm pretty sure there was some sort of prosthetic going on.
Leafed.
And yeah, he was incredibly ruddy-cheeked, but I don't know whether that was just because it was an afternoon recording and he'd had a heavy lunchtime or what, you know, like, I don't know whether that was part of the character or whether that was just Peter Sellers.
Hey, maybe he's now just drunk!
I found this so... I don't know, I genuinely hated it other than one Muppet.
Just so blasé. I genuinely hated this.
Like, the staging was terrible. There were so many
Boring.
Muppets in the frame with that enormous drum. You could barely see Peter. You could barely see the other Muppets. They were all just stood around. It was all the men. They're singing about wild, wild women. Like, it was so sexist and awful.
I just hate the term cigarettes, and it's like, ugh, I hate this kind of like, ugh.
The whole vibe of, like, the military Salvation Army-ness, I mean, that's just, like, absolutely not my thing at all. It gives me the creeps in general. And, yeah, I really, really hated it, quite frankly, except, did you both notice the little scene-stealing Muppet on the trumpet who was right next to Peter and who was rising up above everybody else and was going absolutely crazy at the trumpet solo near the end? That was who I was giving all of my attention to, because I was like, this is a puppet who absolutely understands what their assignment is and is also desperately trying to salvage something from this chaotic awfulness by giving us something to cling to.
It's, I may be in the chorus, but damn it, I will be seen in this number.
Yes. And near the end, they were basically above Peter, and I was like, yes, I love it. Like, you are the star of this number. Oh, and George, obviously.
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was like, oh, look, George. That was about my only takeaway from this whole number.
And he looks concerned to be there. He's like, what the hell is going on?
He thought he was done with showbiz. He was out. He was out of the game. And then they were like, we've got this misogynistic number we need all the men for. Can you come back? And he was like, sure, it's a paycheck. I guess I can come back. I feel like that was George.
Yeah.
Again, like, why is this what Peter Sellers is doing? I really, really don't understand.
Oh, God. I don't know. The more I saw of Peter Sellers in this, the more I was like, oof, you must have been hard work. I don't know. I don't know. Just bad vibes. Bad vibes. I
don't get why this is what the Muppet Show wants him to do either.
Maybe they did not get a choice. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. Maybe they just had to go with what they had. I don't know.
It's interesting. Well, Jade, you are the one who's done the most reading on the subject. Did they ever actually really talk much about the writing of an episode in regards to, like, how they're shaping it for the performer? Does the performer have much say? Because, you know, obviously we know the SNL example where it's like, the guest is actually there for the week and they're in the writer's room and then they get pitched to get sketches and stuff like that. I'm just really intrigued as to what the Muppet Show process is. And how much...
think when it got on to, like, the second and third seasons and obviously beyond, like, if the guest wanted to have more input, they could. And we'll get to it when we get to the John Cleese episode, but basically he wrote the episode with them.
Oh, interesting.
Which isn't really surprising.
Yeah.
But then there's other guest stars that I've seen quotes from in the various books where they're basically like, and I guess this was especially when they got onto the later seasons, they're basically like, no, I trust you guys. You do an amazing job week in, week out. Like, you write whatever and I will turn up and I will be game and I will do whatever it is you want me to do because I know that you're going to do a good job, basically.
Yeah, I saw that Peter Sellers episode. I have total faith in you.
And I think there's also, like they did other things, like they would obviously speak to the guest and say, is there a Muppet that you particularly want to work with, for example, and then they'd build something out from there. But equally, I think they tried to think of I think a lot of people obviously said like Piggy or Kermit. So then they try and think of other Muppets that could work with their character. To my mind, this is maybe not happening quite at this point, because I think this episode is a real case in point of that, where you're like, Gonzo gets a snippet of time with him, but not a lot. And also if you think about like, I don't know, some of the other episodes we've had recently where you're just like, they've not really had any time with like major Muppets.
Yeah. We don't see Miss Piggy at all.
No.
And can you imagine Inspector Clouseau and Miss Piggy together with like the matching coats and the hats, like doing a little scene? That would have been so much fun.
Yes, get Piggy in a Mac.
Yeah.
That would have been so much fun. Yeah,
Ugh.
what a weaker episode for not having any Piggy in it at all as well, even just as a little backstage bit of business.
Yeah, have them like trying to solve the theft of a diamond, and then it turns out that Piggy stole it the whole time because she wanted to turn it into like a necklace and tiara set, you know, and it's in the Mac. Like, there you go, there's a sketch.
I don't even think it's just a sketch. Like, I mean, if he'd have been game for doing Clouseau in general, wouldn't it have been great to have a whole episode that was built around him in character as Inspector Clouseau the whole time?
Sold. Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Anything but this. Anything but this. Is there anything we'd like to say about the goodbyes, or can we just like rush through giving this really low scores and we can go home?
I just want to say I was so confused as to why he turned up as a German soldier again. Like, that just literally made no sense to me.
Well, there we are. We did it. So, I'll be very intrigued to see how low we each score this. But first, we must decide which MVMP, most valued Muppet performer, we loved the most this week. Jade, why don't you kick us off?
I'm going to give it to my cute little Salvation Army trumpeter this week, because they were by far and away the most captivating and exciting thing that happened in any of Peter's numbers. And yeah, just love a Muppet trying to steal the limelight and really committing to their contribution, even if the song itself is absolutely terrible. So yeah, little trumpeter, thank you for bringing a smile to my face in an otherwise awful number. Emma, who's your MVMP this week?
I was just going to say, I thought it's been a while since we gave it to a truly random, like, one-off Muppet, but then I looked back and I was like, oh wait, 2 weeks ago I just gave it to the beaver in the Julie Andrews episode.
I think it's been a while since I gave it to a random Muppet, but yeah. That's...
Yeah, I was going to say,
right.
I've not done that for a while.
Not since Lobster Banditos, actually, for you, Jade.
Yeah, God, so
all
the way back to the Banditos.
Oh my god, was mine like the magic trick cupboard? I feel like that was
That's a season
was that
one,
even
isn't
this
it?
season? Hang on. Oh, you mean last season? That's how long
one.
since you did it.
Yeah.
Let me have a quick look. Oh, you gave it to Mary Louise, Emma. But she's a bit more.
She had a storyline that week.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah, so for this episode, just for the fact that he brought a bit of levity and calmness to it in the midst of all this wild craziness, it's going to go to Rolf.
Oh my
His
God,
two
Emma.
little bits.
Yeah, like 2
Any
weeks in a row.
excuse.
Yeah, literally.
He saved this show.
Did he?
Did he? No, I think he is going to be my MVMP for this week.
And every week.
Purely every single week. Because I mean, I loved his two numbers. His number with Gonzo was great, and then when he did When as well, and it was just nice to see that in midst of all the like chaos. So I think for this week and this episode, my MVMP is going to be Rolf. How about you, Lewis?
God, who am I choosing? Do you know what? Well, look, if Emma can give it to Rolf, I'm going to give it to Beaker, because I feel because what else?
I feel like we're all playing different games here, or I'm playing a different game to you two.
Look, to be fair, I've given it.
I'm
I looked
joking,
back
I'm
quickly.
joking.
Beaver, chicken with cleaver, like, you know.
Oh, it's rhyming, and now Beaker.
Yeah, and so a beaver, from Beaver to Beaker. Oh my God, that's the name of my autobiography. Oh, right. That's enough. Beaker is getting closer and closer to his perfect self. So, and he just popped up, and he was very sweet, and he's meeping more. So, yeah, it's. I'm afraid I'm just gonna select my son for this week. Right, let's do our rankings for this week. Emma, I'm reversing the order. Why don't you start us off?
This was very hard to give it a ranking. So in the end, I ended up going for 4 bombs out of 10. And to be honest, it's purely the backstage business and, the
You're saying you didn't love cigarettes?
It's purely for the backstage business and being green and, Rolf and Gonzo's bits and that very first, backstage cold opener with Gonzo and Peter being Inspector Clouseau. That's kind of my highlights of this episode, and a bit like Kermit said when he was like, it's all too much for me. That pretty much sums up my feeling for this particular episode. So yeah, I'm gonna score it 4 bombs out of 10. How about you, Jade?
Yeah, it was all too much for me as well. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 10 cancelled prunellas. And I think she made the right decision going on that duck hunt, to be honest with you. There's not that many highlights in this. I really loved Wen and Memory Lane. They were cute. Obviously, it's always nice to see It's Not Easy Being Green. The runner was good fun. Like you said, Lewis, it's nice to see Beaker becoming more like the Beaker we know. And Richard Hunt is just doing such a stellar job at bringing out all of his little personality quirks and just making him really cute and fun. And of all of Peter's bits, I guess the Richard III, when he was actually doing the soliloquy with the chickens and then the little interaction with Gonzo, as well as obviously the snippet of Inspector Clouseau, they were... I guess they were the highlights of his trip to the Muppet Show because there weren't really that many others.
No.
But yeah, this is it's just such a disappointing episode of television. Also, I can't really score it highly at all because it's just so racist and awful.
It really
the entire
is
way through.
It really is.
Really want to underline that, okay? It's just really bad.
Yeah.
Actually kind of amazed that Disney have even put it on Disney Plus because it's not a good episode of television. And
it's not.
Also just feel so sorry for everyone who did tune in on New Year's Day 1978. What a terrible way to start the year.
Imagine having a hangover and having to listen to that bloody drum being beaten for a minute and a half while old man puppets sing about whiskey and wild women. You just
wild women.
I'm going back to bed. This is not worth it. It's not worth waking up for the leftover turkey curry buffet. Just
wake me up in 1979, I think would be my...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jade, I'm following on from you. I mean, I'm edging between 3 and 3.5. I'm just, I'll bring the average down. 3 Nazi masseuses out of 10. I don't think I have much more to add. I think you're quite right, Jade. It's such a disappointment. For somebody who, when they aren't being incredibly unsettling and, depressed and morose and just has been an incredible comedic performer and just not bringing any of that really, apart from, it's just not good. It wasn't good then. It's certainly bad now. It's very disappointing. So I'm just, 3 Nazi masseuses out of 10. Right, well, from book burning to Jade's Muppet Book Club Corner Book Club.
Oh my God.
What have you got for us this week, Jade?
So this week I'm actually going to read something from The Art of the Muppets book, which is the book that accompanied a exhibition that was held in the late 70s.
Ooh.
So it started in 1979 at the Lincoln Center's library, and then it actually went on to travel around America and was very, very popular. So this is The Art of the Muppets, and I've double checked because there's no author listed on the book, and it basically says it's written by the Jim Henson Associates staff. So it was a collaborative effort from the people that worked for Jim Henson at the time. And I just thought I'd read a little bit about this section's entitled Fabrication. So the making of the Muppets. And I was kind of inspired by Link's lifeless legs for this week, because normally the puppets are so gorgeous. So I thought we'd talk about that. So today, Muppet builders are constantly experimenting with fabrics and foams, testing for resiliency and flexibility, finding new ways to turn bits of America's industrial effluvia into living sculpture. In New York, Muppets headquarters, the workshop is a place where ping-pong balls become frog eyes and stacks of boxes abound with labels such as noses, tongues and shapes, horns, claws, teeth, large wacky stacks, and sleazy bunny fur, where turkey feathers, Teflon tubing, and polyurethane foam are glued, sewn, and otherwise assembled into puppets, which, in varying stages of completion, await the finishing touches of builders and costumes. In one area of the London workshop, some of Muppets television and film production is done in England, puppet builders have become chemists, working constantly on the development of new foam compounds that will better suit their very particular requirements. If there are no set rules in Muppet making, there is a basic philosophy. A Muppet should be constructed to weigh the least, move the most, and be very strong. Here again, Muppets depart from traditional puppets. While puppets generally have had inflexible faces and a very limited range of expressions, Jim has constantly experimented with materials and mechanisms that would allow the performer a greater range of possibilities. This has led to the extensive use of polyurethane foam as the base building material. Most Muppets are either patterned or sculpted out of sheets or blocks of foam. Some are then covered with fake fur, feathers or fleece, others are flocked, dyed and painted, or a combination of these techniques is used. The results are sometimes surprising. Several years ago, in a TV adaptation of the old folk tale The Bremen Tau Musicians, the Muppets introduced human characters with large foam rubber heads that seemed startlingly alive. One of Hollywood's leading makeup artists was immediately on the phone in a state of high excitement. It was difficult to convince him that he had not witnessed, as he insisted, some great breakthrough in the tricks of the makeup man's trade, but rather another stretching of the potential of the puppets.
Interesting. That's a good book. Where did you find that?
I just found it on eBay. I got it when I got the other Christopher Finch book. I managed to get them both together. And it's really gorgeous. It has some beautiful, beautiful pictures in it. And also in the centre, sorry everyone at home, I'm just going to show Emma and Lewis this. It has, so there's this picture. And then it folds out into this like amazing collage.
We love a Vanity Fair fold out.
Yeah.
We love a fold out. That's cool.
It's really cool.
It still makes me so angry that when I was in New York, I managed to select the 4 days that the Museum of Moving Image was not open, so I didn't get to see any of the Muppets.
Oh, that is, yeah.
But
that is galling.
Yeah, but I might have to go next year, so if that's the case, Muppets!
Were there any Muppets in the Academy Museum?
No, not any.
Oh, that's surprising.
I know. I was like, surely. I mean, what we really need is the Muppets hosting the Oscars. That's what we need.
Yes. Not Jimmy Kimmel again.
Although, I will give him credit. He did give us Helen Mirren lying seductively on a speedboat, on a jet ski, like that one time, which was quite funny. Like, that image of just Helen Mirren just, like, lying on a jet ski like a game show hostess has always, like, remained with me. And just like us, we will remain with you until the end, which is now. Thank you so much for listening to Muppetsational. That didn't work. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, as it really helps spread the word about the podcast. You can follow us on social media. We are at Muppetsational on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can contact us at hiho@muppetspodcast.com, and you can find out more about us and the podcast at muppetspodcast.com. Well, we did it. We got through. Who have we got next week? What's the guest next week?
Petula Clark, isn't it?
Petula Clark.
Oh, mummy. Okay. Well, we'll see you when we all head downtown next week on The Muppet Show. I've been Lewis Chandler.
I've been Jade Turner.
And I've been Emma Chandler.
We'll see you next week on another episode of Muppetsational. Bye.
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 Our theme music is Peppy Pepe by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork is designed by Charlotte Rudge, who you can follow at Charlie_R_Rudge on Instagram.
That was a funny show.
Yes, it was. I wonder if they meant it that way.